Do you love your weekly staff meeting or do you hate it? There is a mixed bag. Some people love staff meeting. I love staff meeting. I love going every week and sitting down with everybody and being on the team and talking and hanging out, making decisions. But some people just hate staff meeting. And I get it. I get it. You spend an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, sometimes even 4 hours sitting in this room with all these people. You feel like you're not really getting a lot done. And everybody hates that. They hate walking out of a meeting and feeling like, why did we, what are we doing with our time here? We hate that. And what I want to do today is I want to sit down, me and Matt, we're going to sit down, we're going to talk about how to keep staff meetings engaging, how to create a staff meeting where people love coming in, they love hanging out, they love spending that time, and they love leaving when it's all over. Because staff meetings, you have to have them. If you don't have them, you're going to feel it. But if you have them, they have to be engaging and they have to get something done. And in this episode, we're going to show you exactly how to make that happen. So let's get started. So the big question is this: how do pastors like us who remain focused on the mission of Jesus and serving our communities without being distracted by everything in the world around us, how do we increase our effectiveness while living a lifestyle that doesn't compromise our health, our families, or our personal relationships with Jesus? That's the question this podcast is going to answer. I'm Dr. Brandon Party Cooper, and welcome to the Ministry Hackers Podcast. Welcome to this episode of Ministry Hackers Podcast. I hope you are doing wonderful wherever you are and whatever it is you are doing. We are in November. Thanksgiving is not too far away. Christmas is right around the corner. Super excited about the fall weather. Super excited for just this time of year. I love it. I hope you love it. And I hope you're going to have time to enjoy it, in time to spend with your family, time to hang out, time to enjoy the season, the holidays. I hope you are ready for it. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to help you. We're here to guide you. We're here to give you maybe the permission to have a little margin in your time to enjoy your family and your friends and the things you love. And joining me today, as always, is the wonderful Pastor Matt Wasbinski. Matt, how is it going?
It's going great. Enjoying the nice fall weather. Today's going to be a good week because it's like cool, but we're going to get like 2 warm days tomorrow and like leading into the weekend, and then it's going to be freezing for the rest of all time.
Okay, so now, hold on. What is warm? Like, tell me in Michigan.
Like
what
60, 60, like 65,
okay.
like where I can like go outside in jeans and a t-shirt and not have to worry too much about it. So possibly like going to like replace the brakes on my car, like try to do like the outdoors stuff that like I don't want to be outside too long for, because then after that it's supposed to be like 40s, 30s for like here on out. So
nice. So are you handy like that? Do you do auto work?
No, I'm not. Luckily, I married into a family that is, and so my father-in-law is very handy. So he, it's gotten to the point where like I can do it, but he kind of is there to make sure I don't break things more than they were already broken. So, with a combination of my father-in-law and YouTube, I can pull off like a few things. But
nice, yeah. So I actually come from a family. My uncle actually is a mechanic. My dad is very handy on the cars, and I can change my tire. That's about it.
Yeah.
So somehow along the way, I just kind of missed out on that.
I was the same. Like we came from a family of like just get a different one. Like, you know what I mean? It wasn't worth saving like the $10 or whatever to do it yourself. It's like just have someone who knows what they're doing. So.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. Hey, so I've been meaning to ask you, like, for Christmas coming around the corner, play practice. Mm-hmm. Are you ready for your role in Joseph in the Christmas play this year?
I mean, I am going to nail it, but I will say this. I was super bummed because I don't want to say part of the reason, but I was really hoping that we were going to go Encanto characters for Halloween because I could pull off Bruno very well. And my kids just were not super interested. They loved the movie, but they wanted to be something else. So that was one thing where I'm like, man, I don't know if I'm ever gonna have hair like this, and I could have pulled it off perfectly. But
well, hey, you got the maybe you could do Easter, maybe to be Jesus.
Exactly. If I can make it to Easter, then maybe I can pull off Jesus.
It'd be pretty long.
Yeah, at that point, like I might have to play like Mary or something. I don't know. It's getting long, man.
Nice. All right. So, as many of our listeners know, you and I have a long history. We've been on staff together. We did a couple years on staff And one of the things that I loved, was our staff meetings. I love staff meetings, and I've been at multiple churches. We've always had staff meetings. What is your general feel about staff meeting?
I think that they're good. I'm a pretty social person, and so I like the idea of like, a bunch of different voices kind of coming together. Because I think a lot of times in ministry, surprisingly, for something that is so ingrained with other people, a lot of the stuff that you do is kind of by yourself. Like you're working on projects, or you're sending out
Right.
emails, or you're just doing different stuff. And so I like that collaborative mindset
Mm.
and kind of getting people together for a while. Um, but it also is that every week kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And so it can become very monotonous and, all right, it's just something we got to do,
Right.
especially if you, like, let's say you have a really busy week, you have an event coming up, and you're thinking, like you were saying, even during the intro, like, this is 2 or 3 hours I could be
Right.
using for something else, especially if you don't have anything like really to add to the conversation, because
Mm.
you're like, hey, my focus is this week, and so that's all I have to add, and like I don't really have time to sort out like all your stuff,
Right.
and so I would just rather go. But it's that give and take. If you're expecting people to help you, dream and plan about the big event that you are now throwing, then when they're trying to dream and plan and
Right.
get everything together, then you also need to be able to set aside some time and help with that collaboration to make the whole church better. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
there are
be a good
some
team player.
pros and cons. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I think I lean towards the side of I love staff meeting. Like you, I am super social. In fact, one of the things that I don't get a lot of now is that team element, and I miss that a lot. I miss getting together and bouncing ideas off each other and planning and all that. I love that, but it can get a little long. I think that's
Mm.
my challenge, is that I love it, me personally, but I know that a lot of the angst and a lot of the eye rolling and all that stuff that comes usually comes because it can be long. Now, I've been
Mm-hmm.
a part of staff where our staff meetings were 45 minutes to an hour. I mean, get in, get it done, get it out. When we were on staff, though, it was like a whole production for the
Yeah.
majority of the day, right? So we would get together, we would
Mm-hmm.
prayer, I think at like 8:30 or 9, and then we go from
Mm-hmm.
prayer into about a 2 to 3 hour staff meeting, and then from there we would go to lunch for another hour, hour and a half. So it was usually one, right? About one
Yeah.
thirty
Yep.
before our
Yeah.
started.
It was your whole morning. Like the
Yeah,
first thing I would do is I would come in, get some coffee from the Keurig, and then walk into the auditorium for prayer. And then it was post lunch, 1:30 or so, before like I really had the chance to do anything else. So.
yeah. And again, I loved it, but I get it. Like I get on the back end, especially like you said, when somebody has a ton of stuff to do, you just feel like it's not super productive. And so, what we
Mm-hmm.
want to do today is we want to give you just three very simple, very focused ideas or concepts that are going to help you make your staff meetings engaging, which means that they're going to draw everybody in. Everybody's going to love to be a part of it. But at the same time, it's going to serve its purpose and move everybody on to what needs to be done. And so the first thing that we have to do in order to make our staff meetings engaging, the first thing we have to do is we have to keep it productive. It has to be productive. We cannot meet for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. We cannot do that and walk out and have no decisions and no action steps. Because when we do that, then that's where the staff begins to ask the question, what did we just do? Like, we just sat down, we just had this long conversation, and we spent all this time together, and I don't know what the purpose was.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to keep it productive and keep it on point and make sure that when we walk out of the room, that there's decisions and that there are action steps to carry out from that meeting.
Yeah, I think that so we do this yearly survey to see like it's for Better Christian Workplace, where we the whole staff does surveys and how we do and all that sort of stuff. And one of the
This is an
feedback that we
external survey,
got,
correct?
correct,
Yeah.
and it's something that we do at all of our campuses to kind of see like what are we doing really well and what could we be doing better. And one of the things was that a lot of times in our meetings it can feel like that like circular thing where maybe there was a lot of really good discussion, maybe a lot of really good brainstorming and ideas, but then when we left, we feel like we didn't really accomplish
Mm,
anything.
right.
So a lot of people spoke and a lot of people kind of had their like, okay, this is what I think, or I think we should do this. But yeah, I think that's really important is that, because I think sometimes that happens where we leave the meeting, we're like, wow, what a great meeting. We had so many good dreams and man, so many great ideas. And that was a really good point that so and so made. But then you leave and you sit down at your desk and you're like, well, what was that? Well, now what? Like, know what I mean? Like, wait, are we doing the first thing or like, are we
Right.
doing the seventh thing? Like, and so, yeah, so having it feel like when people are leaving that they're like kind of have that not only positive momentum, like their
Right.
voice was heard and things were discussed, but that they have that forward momentum and
Mm,
now they are know okay what's kind of next up on my schedule, and so that's really good. And it's also great because then if you're having these weekly or at least very routinely, then it gives you something to kind of come back for, like
right.
okay, by next time, like it's expected that I'm going to have this list of participants or I'm going to have contacted those four people or called that one company. And
Mm,
so I think that if people kind of have that, and then it also kind of sets you up for the next meeting where you kind of know what you're going into as well.
right. Now, the one thing I want to clarify though, this does not mean you can't have brainstorming sessions or
Mhm.
idea moments or whatever. I think what you need to do though in that is you either need to clarify on the upfront and say, hey, guys, this weekend staff meeting, we're going to brainstorm this. And so everybody understands we're walking into a brainstorming session. Number one, helps them just be more prepared for brainstorming. But number two,
Mhm.
they don't, it manages their expectations so that they know that when they walk out of that meeting, there's a good chance there's not going to be major decisions or action steps in place because it's a brainstorming session. So that's the first thing I would say is either communicate, hey, it's a brainstorming session on the upfront, and so they know that going in. Or the other thing is isolate it into a small window of the meeting. So
Mhm.
isolate a 20-minute or a 30-minute window and just say, okay, guys, we're going to go into kind of a brainstorming period right now, and here's what we're talking about. And so again, that way they know, okay, in this little window, no decisions or action steps are really probably going to come out of it. We're just bouncing ideas off the wall. We're just throwing things out there, and we'll pick it up later at either another meeting or another session or whatever to come back to and actually make decisions. But I think that's
Mhm.
the one thing is sometimes staff meetings can get so decision oriented and so click, 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 get it out that we never allow room for collaboration or brainstorming or innovation or any of those things because we're trying to keep our meetings so short and productive that we kind of cut that piece out, which is really what keeps us at the forefront of ministry practice and everything else. And so, making sure that we are making time for that, it's just managing the expectations before the meeting and isolating it to a small window within the meeting so they know, so your staff know that.
Yeah, and one of the things that we even do here is so the like terminology that we use is we call them synergy meetings, which are our weekly kind of like staff meetings. But then we also have something called staff meeting, and we do that once a month, where it's an additional hour on the tail end of our synergy. And that is something that we do once a month, where that is specifically for things like brainstorming.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we're going to be doing this event in 6 months and I need to start thinking about vendors and I need to start thinking about this.
Right.
What do you guys think about that? And so we, like you said, kind of carve out that specific time where it's kind of going in where anyone can kind of put it on the itinerary and say, hey, this is something I really need to discuss or
Right.
bounce some ideas off of you. And then the idea of it is it's a lot less, like you were saying, information giving. And people are kind of walking into that knowing, like, okay, like we're going to be spitballing a little bit here, big
Right.
conceptual ideas in this time. And so yeah, so I think that's really smart to like let people know, like, hey, we're moving into this frame of mind and
Right.
then going from there.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so that's the first one. Keep it productive. The second one is keep it moving. Keep it moving. And what that means is limit discussions and be decisive as the leader, as the pastor, as the one overseeing the meeting. You have to be decisive. Again, it's easy to let the meeting devolve into discussion. And sometimes discussion then becomes debate, and debate then becomes an argument, and then everybody walks out of the meeting all frustrated. And usually that happens because we, as the pastor or leader in charge of the meeting, we don't keep it moving forward. We just kind of come to a discussion point and we camp out. and we sit back and we let the discussion, or we fully engage in the discussion and we're the ones that keep it moving, or we keep that discussion continuously carrying on, and it's 45 minutes later and we're nowhere near a decision point, and
Hmm.
just devolving into frustration and argument and debate. And so we have to keep that moving, keeping away from discussion, staying on topic, staying on agenda, making sure that we are moving the meeting one step at a time forward, so that everybody knows, they can at least sense there is an end and we are moving towards it. And so just keep that staff meeting moving forward to decision points and to the end.
Yeah.
How do you guys handle that for your staff as far as like keeping it moving, Matt?
So one thing that we do is one, we have a Google Doc that is like a living document, that so we don't have like individual notes for each synergy, but what we do is we have synergy notes, and like you can scroll up like 50 pages and see notes from 3 years ago synergy. And so every week we just start a new page and then we kind of go from there. And that is kind of built even so ours are on Tuesdays. So earlier in the week or end of the previous week, those are kind of built out. So if you have something that you need to kind of share with the group or anything like that, that's kind of built into there.
Right.
So then you can kind of look ahead and kind of know, like, if you need to process or think or strategize before you even come into the meeting. And
Gotcha.
then another thing that's really nice is that kind of in parentheses. So it might say, Christmas appreciation, where we're going to talk about, hey, what are we going to give to all of our volunteers? And
Mm,
then in parentheses, it'll typically have like a 5 minute increment of how long that's supposed to take. So like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. And
right.
then so right off the bat, when you're looking at that, you kind of know like, oh, okay, this is just sort of like I'm keeping you up to date. This is just an update on something or something like that. It's just a 5 minute quick little thing. Or you see something where it's like, you know, 20 minutes, then you're like, okay, this is something where we're going to be talking about it for a little bit. This
Mm,
is something a little bit more. And then it kind of gives people, even going into that topic, a
right.
little bit of perspective of, okay, if I have more that I really want to talk about, then this isn't really the setting for that. Like
Right.
if I have an issue with this, or if this is something, then that's maybe a one-on-one conversation I need to have with my like direct report after this is done, or maybe talk with this pastor. Or, we always say like, I'll catch you offline. Like the idea of, hey, this isn't like a whole group discussion. Like, there's 8 people in the room or whatever. And
Right.
so, hey, I know somebody who I can connect you with. Let's talk later. And then, we'll talk about how that could all work out.
Mm,
And so, having even those parentheses of how long you're kind of thinking this topic should take, one helps you kind of plan out your meeting. So then you don't have 18 topics that you're never going to cover. And then you just never get to those last ones at the bottom of the list.
right.
And then two, people kind of know, hey, this is more of just I'm letting you know. And then
Mm,
if you have discussion stuff, we can talk about that later. But this is just me letting you know. Or no, this is the time where we're going to sit, discuss. Do you have any questions? All that sort of stuff.
right. Yeah, and I think this is where you as the leader really have to step up. For some of us, we control the room and we manage all of that and we just keep everything moving just fine. Others of us though, we kind of let our staff do their thing, and if they want to discuss, we let them discuss. But I think there's a point where you as the leader, you are the pastor, you are the decision maker in the room. At least maybe you're discussing something for another department, and so let's say you're talking about something in the youth department. The youth pastor is the decision maker, but you're managing the room, you're managing the meeting, and so if there's a decision point to be made, you may defer to the youth pastor, but you shut down the discussion to then
Mm-hmm.
move on. And so I think
Yeah.
that's where us as leaders, we have to kind of step in and say, okay, guys, that's enough discussion. It's time to make a decision. And either you make that decision, move forward, or you hand it off to youth pastor, whoever it is, say, now you have enough information, you make the decision, let's move on. Just
Yeah.
because, again, I think when nobody's in charge of the room and nobody's managing the meeting, then everybody's in charge of the room and everybody's managing it, and it turns into chaos, which is usually
Yeah.
what turns your staff members off to staff meetings anyway, because nobody's in
Mm-hmm.
charge and they feel that.
Yeah. For sure.
Okay, so that's number 2. Keep it moving. The last one, and this is a big one, probably bigger than most of the time we understand, but this is a huge one. Number 3 is keep it positive. I don't know if, Matt, for you, how it's been over the years in your staff meetings at the churches you've been at, but I know for me, it's easy to come into a staff meeting and be super excited about stuff. That's great. Those meetings are great. But more often than not, we come into meetings and we talk about the problems. We talk about the issues we're having. We talk about what's breaking down. We talk about the problem congregant or the problem youth in our youth group. Whatever. We talk about whatever the issues are. And what can happen is these become almost like professional gripe sessions. Like, hey, we have to talk about this because this is a part of ministry and we have to problem solve. But if you step back, if you were an outsider watching this, it would feel like these people are just complaining to each other. And that's what we don't. That is not a productive staff meeting, because what that's doing is it's breeding into your staff culture this kind of negative unrest, which is not something that we want. And then the backside of what the result of that is it stifles anything that is innovative. It stifles any new ideas, any creativity, any optimism. All of that goes out the window because we've kind of allowed these staff meetings to become these gripe sessions of complaining and being frustrated. And we then have blinders to actual creative solutions because we're just so stuck into our problems. And so keep it positive. For you, Matt, have you seen anything over the years in all of the situations you've been, ways that staff meetings have been kept positive or kept them kind of not devolving into that?
Yeah, two that kind of come off, the top of my head is one, we start every single one of our staff meetings with wins. So that is something that kind of sets the table for the rest of the meeting. Just a good reminder of what God is doing at our campus, what God's doing in our individual lives. And that can be everything from, hey, we got approved for that car loan that we were trying to get, or somebody got baptized, or maybe we had a new team member test drive. And so they're really excited about maybe joining our team. All those sort of things. And we try to relate them back to our culture code of like, how is this, something, why is this a win and why is this good and why should we be celebrating it? So then when you start off, like the first thing that you do in the meeting is, hey, we might be talking about some heavy stuff. We might be talking about some things that maybe aren't going so great. But look, God is doing some really cool stuff. And it kind of sets that table of, you're not getting bogged down with, the negative or things that need to be fixed or addressed. But it's also like, hey, yeah, there's some clunky stuff and some stuff that we need to work on. But God's still showing up. God's still doing really great things. People are still experiencing life change. And so that is always super great because then people kind of are, even if you have to come down a little bit, like if you're starting up here and then like, okay, going here versus like you're starting neutral and then you're going down.
Right.
So that's always a good one. And then another thing that we do is we try to go out into the community sometimes and do our staff meetings.
That's good.
Maybe it's just we go to the local coffee shop. And the other thing too is we'll let like people join in on our staff meetings if they like. We have what we call open staff meetings. And so if there's a congregant who really wants to sit in and kind of hear like the kind of, if we're honest, kind of boring stuff about the logistics of what's going on.
The glory of ministry.
Exactly. Then they can. And so there's been several times where we've gone to a coffee shop and we'll post it on Facebook. Hey, your campus staff is going to be at your local coffee shop.
Cool.
Stop on by and we'll buy you a coffee. And then it's good because then sometimes those people even speak up and say, well, I really liked how we did that one year. Or, they'll kind of have that conversation. They get to see you in action, which makes them more likely to support you, like, because there isn't that distance. And then it just adds like a little bit more of like a relaxed posture to it. You're sitting like, you're sitting on like chairs and sipping on coffee, and there's one of your one of your leaders from one of your teams stopped by and you were able to bless them with a coffee. And so it just, sometimes it can get a little bit formal. Like right now I'm sitting at like a big table with a bunch of chairs. And so sometimes it can just feel a little bit formal. And so to kind of go to an off-site location and just kind of be in the community and be available, kind of reminds you that, okay, we're not going to have a big griping session if there's other people here, it's sort
Right.
of like when you're with your family, like you might have a little bit more of a heated argument, like if you're at home alone versus you're out with friends and you're out with other people. And so same thing, it kind of puts that all into perspective of,
Right.
okay, like, we're a family, we fight sometimes, but also let's try to keep this going, keep it upbeat.
Right. Well, and the other nice thing I like about that is it also gives a greater sense of transparency. Your
Mm-hmm.
congregation probably feels a sense of like, well, if I wanted to go, I could. And so, but I don't really want to go, but
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they feel like, you're not hiding something or, whatever. So I really like that idea. And I also like what you said about celebrating wins. I think that's huge. And I think a lot of times in staff, we do that. We do celebrate wins. Because there is a point where you have to talk about issues. That's why, you have those closed door staff meetings, is because you have to talk about some of the issues, some of the frustrations. You have to do that. And so by starting with your wins, like you said, it kind of starts everybody up here, and then if you have to, you go down. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
because that has to be a safe place. And I don't want to give the idea that everything has to be positive and upbeat, and we're all just happy go lucky. And man, I love staff meeting, and you never deal with the issues because they have to be dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of, in the midst of dealing with those issues, can we be more problem solving? Can we be more, let's find a solution, and less let's complain, let's be frustrated, and let's gripe about whatever it is that we're talking about. So again, this is a a safe space where we can talk about the issues, but again, keep it positive. Keep it productive, keep it moving, keep it positive. And at the end of the day, I think everybody on your staff recognizes staff meetings are necessary, but I don't think they have to be a necessary evil. I think they really can be huge pieces for your staff and for your team to really come together and to feel like they're connected. That's why I love staff meeting, because I feel like I'm spending time with the people I'm doing ministry with. And I love the teams that I've been on. I've been on some really good teams over the years. And a lot of times it's because in those staff meetings, we get to connect, we get to kind of, let our hair down a little bit, relax, hang out, have some fun while we're doing whatever it is we need to do to get stuff done for our ministries and the congregations that we serve. And so I think there's just a lot of value in staff meeting, but it doesn't have to be a necessary evil. It can be kind of the highlight of the week for your staff as they continue to build that culture and grow. And so, I just think staff meetings is super important. So let's make them fun and engaging. And there's 3 ways that you can do that. Any last thoughts, Matt?
My big thing too is we talked about this a little bit in the productive side, um, but having a tangible next step coming out of the meeting.
Yeah.
One of the things that we do is we do something called Ministry Minute that is at the end of the meeting. And what that does is just everyone goes around in 60 seconds and say what you're working on that week. And then 1, that keeps you accountable. And then 2, it kind of helps everyone know like what level of busy you are. Do you have a big event coming up? So if you're a little bit slow responding to Slacks or to emails, that's probably why. Are you going to be out of town for something?
Right.
And it often lets you also tell your lead pastor or whoever's in charge of that staff meeting kind of what have you taken from this meeting and what are you going to do with it.
Yeah.
And how are you going to apply it and how is that kind of fitting into your week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. I like that. Again, staff meetings can be super, super important for you and can be kind of a pivotal anchor for everybody on the team each week. And so, again, keep it productive, keep it moving, keep it positive, have wonderful staff meetings, and your team will love you for it. Super excited again for just what God can do in a staff, that is on the same page and doing great things. And so use your staff meetings and make them productive and just help them to, to be a highlight, like I said, for the rest of the team. So super excited about the season, super excited about Thanksgiving, super excited about everything that's going on. And one of the things that I'm super excited for you as a staff member, as a pastor, as a ministry leader, is helping you find the margin that you need in your life. I think, and this is where I am in ministry. After 20 years of ministry, after serving with tons of pastors and watching tons more, serving them and serving alongside them, one thing that I'm convinced of is that we make ministry harder than it should be. And I think that a lot of times what we end up doing is we work ourselves to death and we take away all of our free time. We don't have any margin. We miss things out miss out on things with our kids and our family. And I just don't think that that has to be the case all the time. And so what I want to do is I want to invite you. Go to brandonpartycooper.com/more time, more money. And right there, you're going to get a step-by-step guide how you can go from overwhelmed, stressed out, anxious in your ministry to living a life of ministry where you get to pastor a growing church, a growing ministry, while at the same time spending time with your family and friends. And so, you can go there, brandonpartycooper.com/more time, more money, and watch step by step how you can go from where you are today to where you want to be, the things you've imagined. I know for me, when I had this calling on my life years ago, I had this idea of what that would look like. And I feel like it took me a long time to get there, and partially because there were some things that I just didn't understand and that I had to figure out along the way. And the longer you're in ministry and the longer you really kind of pay attention to how you can make more margin in your life, the more you understand how to live that way. And so, I've figured it out on my end. I've seen lots of pastors who have figured it out on their end. And what I've done is I've taken those steps and I've put them all together so you can see step by step how to go from where you are to where I believe God has called you to be. And so Matt and I are both testaments of what that can look like and how you can live that life. And so again, go to brandonpartycooper.com/more time, more money. Get the free step-by-step guide, and you can see how you can start today moving towards that dream life in ministry. So, Matt, living the dream life this week. You got the holidays coming up. Are you hosting Thanksgiving this year, or are you going somewhere?
No. So we're trying to navigate all of that and hitting all the different houses and stuff like that. So it's going to be, so I'm excited because it's going to be the best sports weekend ever. So Thursday you have Lions football. Friday you have the United States versus England in the World Cup.
Nice.
Saturday you have Ohio State versus Michigan and Survivor Series for WWE wrestling fans. And then Sunday you have a whole day of football. So like it's just going to be a great weekend of sports. I'm excited about that.
I love the holidays.
So good.
Love it.
It's so good. And then just eating leftover turkey that entire time.
Yeah. Well, we're kicking off early. My 8-year-old son just made a pumpkin pie for me, so I'm getting ready to have some of that tonight. So
enjoy.
Yes, it'll be great. All right, everybody, have a wonderful day. Enjoy whatever it is going on in your life, and we'll see you in the next episode.